Hey, Bob, thanks for being here and joining me on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you taking the time to do this. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for having me. And I want to thank you because it's not easy to put a podcast together. It's got to be an act of love,
Yeah.
And what are you doing it for? You're doing it so that guys like me get a chance to talk about the stuff we love talking about. So my thanks go out to you.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stephenson, the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, where our ongoing goal is to help you live your best audacious life ever. I'm totally thrilled that you would join us here today and want to express my sincere appreciation for you taking time out of your busy day to be here with us. This podcast is all about inspiring and empowering you to embrace your unique journey, overcome challenges, and unlock your full potential. Now, life is much like the changing seasons. Just as winter gives way to spring, bringing new growth and vibrant blooms, our lives are marked with transitions that shape us. There'll be times when we face the harsh cold of winter, those moments of struggle, of hardship. Yet, with patience and resilience, we can look forward to the warmth and renewal that spring brings. Both the cold and warmth are essential. Each season contributes to the beauty of the whole landscape of our lives. Embracing this inevitability to change allows us to appreciate the full spectrum of our experiences and helps us to cultivate gratitude for every moment. Meditation serves as a powerful tool for managing our thoughts and emotions. It equips us with the ability to navigate the ebb and flow of life's challenges, providing clarity and calm amid the chaos. By learning to observe our thoughts without attachment, we create space for deeper understanding and acceptance, ultimately transforming our emotional landscape. Incorporating mindfulness into everyday activities enhances our enjoyment and awareness of life's simplest pleasures, whether it's washing the dishes, taking a shower, even sipping a cup of tea. Being present in these moments allows us to fully engage with life and appreciate the richness that it offers. Today, we have the privilege of speaking with Bob Martin. He's a former lawyer turned wellness professor and meditation teacher. Bob's journey is one of remarkable transformation from navigating the fast-paced world of criminal law in Miami to embracing the principles of Taoism and mindfulness. His unique insights into the emotional management and personal growth have inspired countless individuals to live more audaciously. Bob's experiences make him the perfect fit for our discussion today, as he embodies the principles of embracing life's changes and the significance of meditation and mindfulness. His wealth of knowledge and firsthand experiences provide valuable lessons that resonate deeply with our quest for personal growth and audacious living. So now that we've got you all set, let's turn to our conversation with Bob. Enjoy. Hey, Bob, thanks for being here and joining me on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you taking the time to do this. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for having me. And I want to thank you because it's not easy to put a podcast together. It's got to be an act of love, And what are you doing it for? You're doing it so that guys like me get a chance to talk about the stuff we love talking about. So my thanks go out to you.
Well, not a problem. I think we're mutually appreciative of one another, it seems like, which is an okay place to be. Here on this podcast, we really encourage individuals to again live that best audacious, life that we talk about. And an important element, a key to bear in mind is that we're all on our own individual path. And we're not all intended to do the exact same things, and so what happens on your journey will be very different from Sally, Tom, or Dick. I mean, it's all different. What the key though is to understand is that what you have on your journey is yours to face. And the piece that really charges and gets me excited is to know that on the other side of those challenges and adversities and those hardships and difficulties is where the greatness lies, and we just got to persevere and push through to get to the other side. And I know that much of those themes touch on the work that you do. You've got a sort of storied background. We get into all that because it seems like you've done a lot. You've maximized, every ounce of every day. It seems like, and you've done all sorts of things. We'll talk about that. But maybe as a starting point, I'll get you to introduce yourself to our audience, Bob, and tell about the work that you do and what's got you to the point that you're at now.
Oh, yeah. So, that question if you were asking a 20-something or a 30-something, it would be one side story. When you get it, ask a 75-year-old, it can get a little bit longer. But let me see if I can give you the Reader's Digest version. That is assuming that some folks in your audience are old enough to even remember what a Reader's Digest is.
I say everything is Googleable, so there we go.
Everything's Googleable, right? So my folks were immigrants from Eastern Europe. Their ancestors on both of their sides, both my mom and dad's side, they were wiped out by one group or another, either the Nazis or the Bolsheviks and the like. And so we didn't have a God conversation in my family, just because it was hard for them to wrap their heads around the idea that there could be a merciful God. And so my dad's path to the American dream was popcorn.
Okay.
Popcorn and cotton candy. So I grew up in amusement parks and boardwalks and stuff like that. It was kind of a fun growing up. And then I think I disappointed him terribly when I told him that I was going to become a lawyer. He wasn't one much for lawyers, being, a good bourgeois businessman. And anyway, I did. And I've kind of found that was a skill that I really took to quite quickly. I was a pretty mediocre student. Matter of fact, I flunked out of Boston University, and still one law school decided they'd take a chance on me. Anyway, a little bit fast forward, I started working at the DA's office in Miami, Florida, back in the 70s, which is the days of Scarface and that movie Scarface with Al Pacino and Miami Vice and those days. And we hit the mob up for a lot of money. I went out in private practice shortly thereafter, and Johnny, I'll call him Johnny, came to see me, and basically he said, our lawyers are pretty good. And you hit them for all that money. It means you got to be pretty good. We want to start sending you some clients. Okay. So I started working with them. And in Miami, it's the Italians and the Colombians and the Peruvians and the Cubans and the Haitians.
Right.
So there's a lot of stories that come from that period of time. But I suppose the most important thing is that although my professional life was hitting high points, personally, it was all falling apart between the pressure and a lot of times compromising values and a lot of times doing a little bit too much. Well, they call it cocaine cowboys for a reason. There's a lot of that stuff around, and I was partaking in, I don't know, my wife's parents were alcoholic, and I don't know, it was just a lot of stuff.
Right.
I'm seeing a therapist, and I'm trying to figure out my way through it. And one thing leads to another. And I find out that my therapist was the English language editor of a master monk from the Shaolin Temple, the Kung Fu Temple.
Yeah.
A Taoist monk, 72nd generations. His wisdom was handed down from father to son to father to son. Yeah. And when I met this guy, man, I got to tell you, he just bowled me over. He's one of those people where you meet him and you go, just coming into contact with him was life-changing.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like you got in contact at the right time in your life too.
Oh yeah. So, in a lot of ways, my life has a lot of unique aspects to it, like being a mob lawyer and cocaine cowboys in Miami and all that. But in some ways, it's just really normal. When you're hitting bottom, there's the old expression, when the student is ready, the teacher will come.
Yes. And
the student was ready, and the teacher came. And I studied under Master Nee for many years, and it was transformative. Taoism, which is like a sister to Buddhism and Confucianism, is a very different way of looking at how the universe works. It's all about learning how to go with the flow, but in a smart way. You know, like when things are going with you, you try to take the most advantage of it. And when things are going against you, you don't panic. You just try to stay patient and hold your place and wait for things to start going with you again, and be ready to put out all your energy then. So you become real efficient. It's about knowing that what the flow is, and then figuring out how to most effectively align with it so that you're using your energy most efficiently. So anyway, that's what he called mastery in life. And he kind of pointed us in that direction and gave us practices and the like. And then, truth be told, I ran into a little bit of an issue with my mob clients. Johnny's son was arrested. And up until then, we had a very clear understanding, nothing unethical, nothing illegal. Yep. I mean, you want to have a lawyer that's respected and trusted by the court. So it's in your best interest.
Yes.
But when his son got arrested, there was no more saying no. And I just felt that it was time to move on. So I went from Chrome and Glass and Discotheque Miami to to rural North Carolina, where the first thing I saw on TV was a guy that looked like Horst Cartwright pointing at me saying, "You need to get yourself a truck." So it was a bit of a
Horst Cartwright. Someone will have to Google that as well. Some out there.
Yeah, somebody will have to Google that as well. But you know, you need to get yourself a truck. And so it was a small town prosecutor's office. I went back and started my whole life all over, but I had this blank canvas that I could rewrite, redefine myself.
Yes.
And I started to go to Buddhist temples. So now I'm a Taoist Buddhist, and I'm learning about meditation. And these folks reached out to me and they said, "We would like you to become a teacher." I said, "Yeah, what's that mean?" He said, "Oh, it's only 2 years, sitting 30 minutes a day, 4 silent retreats, blah, blah." I go, "Really?" And they go, "Yep." I said, "Well, okay." And so I did that. And I got to tell you, Audley, that there came a point in that process where after you pick up, the first, basic skills of just watching your thoughts, and you actually set about cultivating things like loving kindness and compassion. And then at some point, your heart opens.
Yes.
And it's a physical thing. It's a physical thing. You feel it happen. And once that happens, the only thing that you want to do, the most important thing in your life, becomes easing the suffering of other folks. So I went back to school. I got a master's in social work. I studied positive psychology, got certified in the art and science of happiness, become certified in transactional analysis and the like. And I wanted to go out and change the world by teaching meditation. So I became a meditation teacher, and eventually in 2015, I retired from law, and Elon University picked me up. And so now I am a professor of wellness at Elon University, teaching meditation for credit, in credit classes. And of course, I have my own private practice. And I got to tell you that the happiness that I have in my life, and the success that I have in my life, it ain't about money. I'm certainly not making the money I made in Miami by a long shot. But I do get to see minds open up. I do keep people begin to break out of the conditioning and really develop audacious lives, like you say. And so that's why, when I saw the name of your podcast, I said, I got to go on there, because, I see that, you're not your thoughts, you're so much more than your thoughts. And when you break out of being your thoughts, it's like the potential of
Yes.
who we are is so much bigger.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
so much bigger than that.
Yes. Yes.
That if you can help people get a taste of that, it gives me my life. So
And it's that
thank
breaking out piece.
you for letting me come on and
Yeah,
share.
no, absolutely,
Share that.
and it's that breaking out piece that you just referenced, which is key for individuals, because oftentimes there's a hindrance, there's this blockage, there's that obstacle that's not allowing them to break, or not allowing them to think they can break out, and that's
Right.
where I can see where it comes in, really breaking down those myths or those fallacies or whatever people got going on in their heads.
Exactly. Yes. Well said.
And so thank you for sharing your journey. I mean, a remarkable story. I think it's filled. It's almost like there's different parts of your life can tell different parts of a story, and we still have value to offer to people, right? And I think that's
Mhm.
a wonderful offering that you have, and the richness that you can be able to impart upon the clients you work with or your students. To be able to help them understand the big picture, I guess.
Mhm.
One of the themes that really, as you were talking, that really stood out to me was that practice of acceptance. And you talked earlier about being taught that, or being shown how significant that is. Can you sort of talk about that a little bit further in terms of this, the significance of being accepting of what happens in our lives?
Yeah. And it all ties in to, the meditation and the teachings from Master Nee. So, um, you know, one of the things that you hear about if, you have any kind of a conversation around Buddhism or of that Eastern thinking is this thing called attachment.
Okay.
Attachment. And what we talk about there is that it's funny. We have this idea that things are permanent, like I get in a car that I just bought and it's got that new car smell, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And somehow we feel like that new car smell is going to last forever. Oh, I just love this new car smell. I just love. And then all of a sudden, a month later, you get in the car and you go, oh, it doesn't smell. And now you're all disappointed because you had become attached to that smell and now it's gone. And one of the things that, when you look at life, you see that it is ever changing. The only consistent thing about life is that it changes.
Yeah.
And even in Taoism, what you've seen the symbol of the yin and the yang,
Yes.
the Tai Chi, we call it the Tai Chi.
Actually, yeah.
Well, the white part, which is yin, has this black dot in it.
It does.
And the black part has a white dot in it.
That's right.
Well, they're not really dots, they're really seeds.
Okay.
And the seed of yin inside of yang, it will eventually sprout and it will take over.
Okay.
And so yin will become yang and yang will become yin. So that little Tai Chi is a symbol that the universe cycles and day turns to night and night turns to day and the like. And we all kind of get that. But where the deeper meaning comes from and that we don't often recognize is that good times have never lasted, have they? We've had lots of times when we've had good times, but they don't last.
Right.
And we've had lots of times when we've been in bad times and they don't last. And so even though day turns to night and night turns to day, and we get that, we don't often get that good times turn to bad times and bad times turn to good times, and that is inevitable.
Yeah.
That will happen. So if you're in a good time and you think it's going to last forever and you're going out and spending all your stuff and just coasting, when the bad times come, you're not going to be prepared. And if it's really bad times and all you can do is panic and catastrophize and whine and think about, oh, poor me, poor me. Well, you're not going to be doing any of the stuff that's necessary to turn it into a good time, right? And so meditation teaches us that our thoughts themselves are ephemeral. I mean, like, where do they come from? They come from like somewhere up the river, and then they're in our vision for a little while, and then they go off down the river, and then another one comes, and it's here for a while, and it goes.
Right.
And we think that those thoughts are in control of our lives.
Right.
But what are they? You can't hold them in your hand. You can't sell them. You can't market them. They're just little impulses of electricity. There's a beep, 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 and it's gone.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things we learn, to watch our thoughts flow and not get attached to them. We also learn that when we're in good times, we need to be like a chipmunk and store some nuts. We can't just coast. We got some work to do. In good times, there's work to be done. And in bad times, maybe it's time that we need to pull back and rest, conserve our energy, because even if we try to do some work, it's not going to work. It is bad times. Nobody's listening to us. Nothing is working. So we need to pull back and then use the time to plan for when things get better. I will be ready to take advantage of it. So there are smarter ways to deal with the changing times in our life.
Right.
And when we ask Master Nee, well, what does it mean, master? When we tell Master Nee, what's it mean? He says, what it means is you learn that it is possible to use less effort and to interfere the least amount possible, and at the same time be even more impactful, more efficient, and more effective. So that's what Master Nee pointed us towards. How do you live that life? That's what he called going with the flow.
Right, going with the flow. And it's funny because I think, so I very much, an analogy that I've talked on this podcast oftentimes, I think fits nicely, is the hills and valleys of life, right? Life is a continuum. And we get to the hill where we are happy, we're celebrating, we're finding joy, fulfillment, peace, all the good stuff. But as we go, life goes, we kind of go down into that valley, and that's where there can be pain or hurt or disappointment or despair. And really, it's recognizing that, well, we can stay there if we want, or we can try and find a way to get ourselves back to the hill where it's fun and sunshine and roses again, right? And
right.
But the key in that, and in line with what you just said, is recognizing that it will happen. There will be dips and there will be valleys, and that's just a function of reality of life.
Yeah. Master Nee once, it was really cool. He took a string, right? It's a regular old piece of string, and he put it on the table, and he said, this distance here, the wide distance, that is the length of your life. Okay? Then he took his finger and he pushed part of the string way up and pulls part of the string way down and way up. And as he's doing it, the end of the string is getting shorter and shorter and shorter because he's pulling it up. He said, if you live your life like this, looking for those high highs and getting those low lows, you're not going to live very long. But if you can even it out a little bit so that they become hills instead of mountains, then you're going to have a longer life. And I just love the way he put that,
Yeah.
Don't
absolutely do.
Yeah.
It makes so much sense.
Yeah.
It makes so much sense. I think it's an important thing. I think for people, where people struggle is just the how part, right? That how
part,
right? Because it's not as it's not as natural to people just naturally, right? It takes some work, some practice, some effort. You got to move away from the emotion, right? Because the emotions are the big part of that as well too. Once you can separate the emotion and just deal with what the events we have in front of us, they're easier to manage. But those are some of the
Right.
challenges.
It's
Suggestions
true.
on how to manage or navigate those things? Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, sure. So, people have been working on meditation tools, and I call them all tools because that's exactly what they are. They're tools that you use to skillfully manage your thinking. It's not about quieting your mind. It's not about kumbaya and la la and grabbing a tree and crystals. It's not about anything like that. What most people are talking about when they talk about quieting the mind, they're not talking about meditation. They're talking about relaxing.
Okay.
And relaxing is really, really important. I'm not saying that it's not. It's vital. If you think back, to when we lived in the jungle, during the day, you did all the work. You went out and you hunted the saber-toothed tiger, and you wound up coming home maybe with a pig or something, a boar, and the women were all at home taking care of 1,000 different things to, run that. But then, at the end of the day, you started the fire and everybody sat around, and that's when the stories got told.
Right.
That's when the wisdom got passed around. That's when the sharing and the bonding and the making of family, that's when all of that, which is vital and absolutely important to life. It's just not meditation. Okay? So meditation is this method of not quieting your thoughts, but learning how to watch your thoughts.
Okay.
And we say there's generally two ways that we human beings are. One of them is when we're lost in the fog of ruminating and projection, which is how we spend most of our time.
Right.
It's like, how some people say, oh, yeah, the car drove me home, right? I got in the car, and then my mind was just blah, 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 and all of a sudden I pulled into the driveway, right? I didn't even have to think about it.
Yeah.
Okay, now, if another car gets a little bit too close to your car, all of a sudden you are attending to it, right? It's got my attention and I'm attending to it. What do I need to do? How do I need to, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
So there's fog and there's attending. And when we learn to meditate, what we do is we allow ourselves to get lost in the fog. So that whole thing about my mind is racing and I have all these thoughts, I can't meditate. No, you are meditating. When you get lost in your thoughts, that's part of the process, because then you kind of wake up from it. You know how sometimes when you're like when you're talking to somebody, and all of a sudden you notice that your mind has wandered away and you're not listening anymore. You missed the last 45 seconds, right? Yes. And would you agree with me that when you notice that, at that moment that you notice you're not listening, there's a kind of little tiny startle feeling.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
it's
right.
kind of like,
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what we call waking up.
Yes.
Okay. That's when you wake up. And then what happens is you say, oh, I didn't hear a word he said. Then you have like this flood of judgments. I should have been listening to him. How am I going to get him to repeat it? What if he finds out that I wasn't listening and it was rude, blah, blah, blah. And then eventually all those judgments kind of quiet down and you go back and start listening again. Right? That's what we do. That's meditating. So when we meditate, we just say, I'm going to pay attention to this candle. And then in 3.5 seconds, our mind goes nuts and starts thinking about whether I have the stove on or what my wife's going to say to me and blah, blah, blah. And at some point, because I said I want to pay attention to the candle, my mind's going to go, psst, psst, hey, psst, psst, you're not paying attention to the candle. Right? And then it's going to be followed by a flood of judgments.
Yeah.
And then eventually you go back and pay attention to the candle again. Then your mind wanders again and you wake up and you notice and you come back and you begin again and it wanders and you notice it. So this is all it is. This is all it is. So anybody can do this.
So Bob, I want to go back. So that waking up and bringing yourself back, that's a natural part of the process?
That is the process.
Okay.
That is the process, because you don't realize what's happening to you, but what is happening is you are starting to consciously notice the difference between being in the fog and attending, because you're doing this on purpose. And so as you do it, you begin to notice what you're doing.
Right.
Now, I'm not going to be the first or the second time, because the judgments are going to take over. But the fifth or sixth or seventh time you come back, it's getting to be an old story. And, when it's an old story, it doesn't have that newness. So now you can kind of like notice what's happening. So there is a difference between judging things and noticing that you're judging things.
Mm-hmm.
There is a difference. And if you can develop the skill of noticing when you're judging, then you start to become more familiar with your judging.
Yes.
And the more familiar you come with it, the more you begin to think, well, this is stupid. Why am I letting my life be controlled by these weird thoughts? I don't even know where it comes from. I don't know why, I think that person is this. I don't. And so what happens is now we start to feed data, new data about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We're starting to gather data about how we think, how we judge, and the like. And if I can just, with your permission, go into like one other little thing.
Sure.
So the old expression that comes from the Bible, judge not lest you be judged?
Yes.
Okay. So most people interpret that to mean it's not my job to judge, it's God's job to judge. He's the judger. And when you go to heaven and you're at the pearly gates, that's when you're going to be judged. It's not my job here on earth to be judging you.
Right.
Okay. I take it to a different place with meditation.
Okay.
What I say is this. I say, Audley, I'm pretty sure that you think pretty much like I think. Now, you've had a lot of different experiences and your life path has been different and you've got a lot of different data. But generally speaking, I am pretty sure that your mind works pretty like mine does, because if it didn't, we wouldn't be able to have a conversation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So, I figure what's going on over there is generally works the same way as mine. So if I go around judging a lot, and I'm judging people by their race, by their ethnicity, by their by the clothes they pick, by the haircut they have, by whether their teeth are white or not. I'm doing all this. I don't like, it's good, it's bad. I'm doing a lot of that. Since I figure that your mind works pretty much like my mind works, I got to be pretty sure you're judging me. Right? So the more judging I do, the more I'm feeling judged. And I got to tell you, walking around in life feeling judged is no fun. You just ask those people that get up half an hour early so they can go into the bathroom and put their makeup on so that they can look pretty when their husband wakes up. You just ask those people who would never in a million years dream of answering the door in their bathrobe what life is like for them, and it ain't fun.
No. Well, because you're constantly in the people-pleasing mode, and you're constantly trying to chase something that's not real.
Right.
And you're doing this from a place of fear. That's all.
Yes.
Fear of something that you have no idea exists.
Right. So if I can somehow reduce the amount of judging I do, I'm going to start walking around feeling less judged.
That's right.
Right? And when I can get to the point where I say, I am what I am and I is what I is, and I'm Popeye the Sailor Man, when I can get to that point and say, what you see is what you get, bud. When you can get to that point, you're free.
Yes.
Now you're free.
Yeah.
And that it is that process of your mind wandering, waking up, seeing all the judgments, then kind of getting familiar with it. And then it kind of gets like you get used to it. And then you start thinking, this stuff is, excuse my language, BS. This is all BS.
Yep, yep, yep.
So, and that's when, you start letting it go. You can't make it go away, but you can let it go away.
Got you. I want to touch specifically on mindfulness. Much of what we've talked about is sort of alluding around that, but let's be very specific here for our audience. And we could first maybe define what mindfulness is and why is it important to us?
Okay, so mindfulness, I often say mindfulness and meditation is kind of like the old expression, you can put a boat on a ship, but you can't put a ship on a boat.
Yeah.
Okay, so all meditation is mindfulness, but not all mindfulness is meditation.
Gotcha.
So one of the things that my students have as a ongoing assignment during the week is choose something that you're going to do mindfully today. Like select washing the dishes. Okay, so what's the difference between washing the dishes mindfully and not washing the dishes mindfully? So not mindfully would kind of sound like this. What am I sitting here doing the dishes for? I mean, I did the cooking. He should be doing the dishes. I thought that's how we were breaking it up. I mean, I got so much to do, and now I got to sit here doing the dishes. And you do a half good job of it, right? That's washing dishes mindlessly.
Yes.
Washing dishes mindfully is, okay, what do I got now? Oh, I got a whole plate. All right, let me say, oh God, the water's so warm. Feel the soap. It's getting the clean. Oh, there's a little spot over there. I need something else. Oh, let me get that sponge. I'm going to do that. And let me get that spot out of here. Oh, that's really pretty good. Okay, try it. Oh, look how nice it is. Let me place it over here. Oh, it's making such a nice stack. Oh, that's really great. Okay, what's next? Oh, it's a bowl. Oh, I get to do a bowl. Now I got to remember, I got to look at the back of the bowl. That's washing dishes mindfully.
Right.
Which one sounds like more fun?
Oh, mindfully. It's a place to be.
Right? So doing things mindfully can actually make a routine task more fun.
Yeah.
Now, you don't want to live your whole life like that because it's good just to be in the fog sometimes. I mean, if you're driving home, you need 20 minutes, 30 minutes just to fuzz out. Fine,
Sure.
great,
Sure.
wonderful,
Yeah.
good. But if you do things mindfully, it's a different experience. And so if you practice that just a little bit here and there, I'm going to make the bed mindfully today. Taking a shower mindfully is the most fun that you can ever have during the day. Let me tell you, feeling the soap in your hair. Well, I don't have any hair, but but feeling the shampoo and the soap and the slipperiness and the hot water and getting clean and washing and drying off. And I mean, all that stuff is wonderful, wonderful physical sensations. And most of the time we miss the whole thing because we're thinking about the deadline, and we're thinking about, I got to hurry up because I want to see that thing on TV. And so we miss the whole shower.
Yep.
And what a shame, because it's so much fun. So that's mindful.
Mm-hmm.
Meditation is actually building muscle. Okay, it's building mind muscle. It's actually a process of re-engineering the physical brain. Let me give you an example. In London, the taxi cab drivers have to learn the map of the whole city with all the little alleyways, and they're tested on it.
Okay.
So they took a photograph of the hippocampus, that little organ that's right at that crease in the brain, where that little crease is. Mm-hmm. So it sits right in there, and it has to do with spatial directional sense.
Okay.
So they took a picture of it. And the people then went and spent their couple of months studying, and then they took a picture of it, and they found that the organ itself had grown thicker, wider, longer, taller, and thicker. So you had used this ephemeral, we don't know quite what it is, thing called consciousness,
Yes.
to actually change the structure of the brain to make it easier for me to have the skill that I wanted to have. And this is something called neuroplasticity.
Yes.
We're familiar with it by doing habits, like if I'm shooting 3-pointers, the first few times it's going to be miserable, but as I keep doing it, it becomes muscle memory.
That's right.
Okay. Well, that applies to all of your thinking. And so when we do these little exercises of paying attention to our physical sensations, we pay attention to the rise and fall of our belly, we pay attention to these things, we're actually building neural pathways in the brain that allow us to re-engineer our thinking so that we can have an audacious life.
Love it. And I think that's exactly that's what the goal is, or we're working towards. Mm-hmm. And hearing that, and as you talk, especially as you talk about mindfulness, it for many, it will make absolute sense. Everything that you've said, Bob, it makes absolute sense. It's just that putting into practice, and that's really, muscle memory, the repetitions, the training, all that kind of stuff is what gets us there. And so I want to thanks for those insights, because I really do believe what you've touched on and what you shared. First of all, the practicality of it's there, right? There's no question about that.
No question.
It just goes back to the practice, because people get caught up in the how, right? How do you do? And the only way to do it is steal from Nike. Just do it. That's really
do it. Just do it. Yeah.
That's all you do. So
and there are tools and there are things that a coach can help you with. If you can learn yoga from a YouTube, and you can learn yoga from an app.
Sure.
But there's nothing like a coach that says, no, bring that right foot back a half a foot.
Yeah.
Raise your elbow up 3 inches. And that 3 inches makes a world of difference, because it engages different muscles. Well, in meditation is the same thing. I'll give you an example. I just recently had, I like I say, I teach on campus. And so I get a class of 15 kids, and Duke University developed this digital infrastructure. We talk about how they developed an app where I meet with my students for an hour and a half once a week. Mm-hmm. And I'll teach them belly breathing, or I'll teach them breath awareness. They go home and they open up their app, and there's a guided meditation on the app that has all the instructions and brings them through it. But here's where the difference is. As soon as they finish that and the bell bang goes off, a little space opens up for them to log their reflection on how that was for them.
Right.
Now, keeping a log, we all know, is helpful, but that's not where it ends. Those logs come to my dashboard through the app. And every morning I wake up at 4:00 in the morning, and I will read all of those 15 logs, and I will respond individually to each of those logs. So they might say, well, this was a terrible meditation. There was a dog that was barking and he got me really pissed off. And then when I felt my cheeks start flushing, I just, got real mad and got up, and I didn't even finish it. That's their log. Okay. And I get to write back, wait, you say that it was a terrible session. I say it was a great session. Look at what you noticed. You noticed that your cheeks flushed. You noticed that time felt like it compressed when you got angry. Right. You noticed what it felt like to be distracted. You know what it felt like to try to resist the distraction. So you have related to me all of this data that you have just become aware of in terms of how you react to distractions. That's all good information. I think that was a great session. Good job. So they get that kind of feedback. every day.
Right.
And so one of my students, I noticed that she's not engaging. I'm not seeing her logs.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked her to stay after class, and I said, call her Paula. Paula, you took this class. It's not required. It's an elective. So, you probably figured that you wanted the benefits of it, and you're probably smart enough to know that you can't just look at the machines. You got to get on in the gym. You can't just go and look at the machine.
Right.
You got to get on it and work it. So what's going on? She goes, I do this all the time, Mr. Martin. I always know what I need to do, and then I don't do it. Oh, so what kind of thoughts are you having? Exactly. Like, I have these kinds of thoughts. No, tell me what the language is. Exactly what words are you using? So we kind of got that down, and then it shifted into, I always sabotage myself.
Okay.
Then I started asking her about the physical sensations associated with her upset. Because at that point, she broke into tears. Absolutely. The floodgates opened, and she eventually said, I just don't think I deserve to be happy. Now, I am a therapist, but I'm not there as a therapist. I'm there as a meditation teacher. So let's use meditation tools. Where are you feeling that in your body? I feel it all over. Okay, so, where specifically do you feel that? Well, I feel it in my eyes. And I said, well, of course you do, because, you've been crying and they're swollen, but where else do you? So I'm pushing a little bit,
Sure.
Let's connect with the body again. Finally, she was able to tell me that it was this spot that was like 3 inches below her collarbone. It wasn't her heart, but it was that place. And she felt like it was throbbing, but it really wasn't throbbing. I'm just telling you what she told me. Okay. So now we've got the physical sensation, and we've got the words that she's being used. By this point, the tears have dried up.
Right.
And now it's an academic exercise of like really trying to think about answering my questions and like, where do I feel it? And now she's starting to get curious about this. So then I helped her to understand that those emotions that you spoke of before, which are so controlling, they ain't nothing but a physical sensation combined with a thought. Because if I said to you, I love you, but I don't have a feeling of my chest reaching out, it would just be an academic statement.
Right.
If I felt the physical sensation without the thought, I guess I'd feel I had indigestion or something, right? So you can break it down. And so we broke it down into just a physical sensation. By this time, she kind of got it. And, the question that came up for her is that this has been my whole life. And that's all it is. That's all it is. It's just a physical sensation and a thought. Mm-hmm. By the end of the class, she was engaging. I was getting a log every single day, sometimes 2, sometimes 2. So these tools, like I say, these are tools that can teach you how to skillfully manage your thinking.
And that's a key in all of this: manage your thinking and not letting our thoughts run away. Because if we're not mindful, they can run away and take us down a dark path if we're not careful.
Yes, sir.
Bob, this has been great. Honestly, this has just been a phenomenal chat. I think the insights that you've shared really put us on the path. I could put listeners on the path of just understanding certainly the significance of how meditation, mindfulness on the 2 individual things, as you pointed out, but the significance that they have on our lives. And again, for that pathway of audacious that we talk about here, these are tools that can help us get to that place. And so thank you for sharing that. If listeners want to learn more about your work or connect with you directly, where can we send them?
Well, I would say, please come to my website. And it's not that I want to promote anything, but people ask me this all the time. Mm-hmm. So I have assembled 56 gigabytes of materials, but I've also written 2 little 40-page downloadable, free, no obligation ebooks. And they answer all those questions. Is it for me? What is it? What is it not? What are the instructions? What are the resources? Where do I go? So, I mean, I don't want to, promote myself, but like I said,
wrong with it, Bob. Nothing wrong with it. Please, there's
nothing wrong with that. Okay, all right.
We're okay. Because it's not that you're promoting yourself, you're promoting the value that you're offering to people, right?
My passion is
absolutely
opening the access, people giving them access to this.
There you go, for sure. So we'll make sure those contact details are in the show notes below. Bob, again, I gotta thank you for doing this. It's been a phenomenal time, and wish you all the best.
Oh, thanks so much, Audley. That was wonderful talking. I have an audacious life, man.
You do. Absolutely. I love it. I love every story. Be well.
Okay.
Back we are here on the podcast, and much thanks and appreciation goes out to Bob for being here. One of the main takeaways from our conversation was a profound impact of meditation on our ability to manage thoughts and our emotions. Bob emphasized that meditation isn't about quieting the mind, but rather learning to observe our thoughts without judgment. That without judgment part is very, very big. The practice offers greater self-awareness, helping us recognize that we are not our thoughts, but instead the observers of them. I personally loved how Bob shared his journey of transformation, how through mindfulness he discovered a deeper sense of purpose in easing the suffering of others. His passion for teaching and helping others is truly, truly inspiring, and great to have him here on the podcast. I encourage you to connect with Bob directly to learn more about his work and the resources that he offers, because there's a ton of them. You can find it all in the contact details, of course, and as well as special offers in the show notes below. Bob has generously provided 2 free downloadable ebooks which cover various topics related to mindfulness and meditation. Be sure to check those out again in the show notes below. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for joining the Audacious Living Podcast today. Remember, living audaciously means embracing the highs and lows of life with grace and resilience. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to like, follow, subscribe, or share to help us grow and reach even more listeners. Your support makes a difference, and together we can inspire others to embark on their audacious journeys. Until next time, keep striving for your best audacious life. Be good, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stephenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.